We've all had the jolt, that moment when a nightmare snaps you awake, you check the locks, maybe take a breath, and just accept that the terror, well, it was all contained inside your own head.
But what if it wasn't? What if that line between the terror inside your mind and, the actual physical world just devolves? What if the details in your dream, really specific things like a scar or a weird sound or even just a strip of light, what if they were actually signals, like warnings about something real about to happen?
That's exactly what we're digging into today. This is our deep dive into 3, frankly, chilling accounts. Stories where people had these dreams that seemed to run, sickeningly parallel to actual break-ins, actual stalking. And we're not just here to tell ghost stories. We want to really dissect the uncanny coincidences, the impossible details that were reported.
Right. We're trying to see if these extreme cases tell us anything about maybe our cognitive defenses. We're looking past general dream stuff. The focus here is really on the connections. Can we pull out any knowledge nuggets about how memory works under pressure or threat anticipation? How does the brain cook up such specific, verifiable details when you're asleep?
Okay, let's get into this first account. It details this recurring nightmare, really terrifying, that someone had for years, starting when they were just a kid. And what jumps out right away are these impossible, but like you said, ultra-specific details in the dream.
Yeah, the first thing is the perspective. The dreamer describes looking down at themselves, like from the ceiling, almost watching a movie of themselves, like kind of out-of-body view. It often happens in really intense nightmares. It creates this weird sense of detachment, even while you're terrified.
And the room itself was just wrong. Always wrong in the same 3 ways. First, there was a digital clock, and it was always counting backward. Second, crayon drawings on the wall. Smiling figures, a house with a blue roof. Drawings the kid insists they never actually made.
Okay, so unfamiliar elements presented as familiar.
And third, this old toy train, one they'd actually lost years before. It would always be there, but in a different spot every time.
It's fascinating, really. It's like the brain is just grabbing these random, specific bits of real information, the lost train, maybe a house they saw, and forcing them into this surreal, confined space of the nightmare.
But here's where it shifts, from just weird memory stuff to maybe threat assessment. After scanning the room in the dream, the dreamer felt this overwhelming urge, like they had to look at the window.
Right, and that's when the figure appeared.
Exactly. A man right there, inches from the glass. And the description is key.
This is the critical data point. Short gray hair and a very specific feature, a cut or maybe a scar on his left temple.
And he'd just watch and then start clawing at the glass, trying to get in.
Terrifying.
This nightmare went on for about a year, then stopped. Just gone for 6 months. But when it came back, everything was identical. The clock, the drawings, the man, except for one absolutely devastating change.
The window.
The bedroom window in the dream was now open.
Wow. That shift from just watching outside to the window being open, suggesting entry, that's a major escalation in the subconscious narrative, a perceived breach.
And that realization just snapped the dreamer awake. But not fully awake. They went straight into about 5 minutes of total sleep paralysis.
Oh, that's awful.
Couldn't move, but felt this cold air hitting their face, convinced, absolutely convinced the man was climbing through the now open window.
And the terror feels completely real then, doesn't it? Because the physical sensation, the cold air, matches what the dream just primed the mind to expect. It's like the dream set the stage for the physical feeling.
Years go by. The dreamer finally tells their parents about the nightmare in detail and specifically mentions the cut on the man's forehead. Why that detail? Why did that break the story open?
Because it wasn't generic. It was a concrete, verifiable detail. It moved the whole thing out of just, bad dream territory.
Right. It triggered the confession.
Exactly. The parents finally admitted who the man likely was. Uncle Brian. Not a real uncle, but a close family friend. Someone they'd had a falling out with and cut ties with when the dreamer was very, very young. Too young to form explicit conscious memories. It's that period we call infantile amnesia.
So no way the kid would consciously remember him.
Right. But Brian apparently had a very noticeable scar on his forehead from a car accident that happened before the dreamer was even born. So the father's theory was, well, the dreams weren't predicting the future. They were the brain dredging up this buried visual memory, an implicit memory, a face associated maybe with safety once, but now filtered through fear. Maybe the fear of the unexplained parental falling out.
Okay, so that shifts it. Less coincidence, more like subconscious cognitive retrieval. Makes sense.
But the story doesn't just end there with a neat explanation.
No. In the final dream sequence, after waking up properly this time, the dreamer looks over at the window, kind of nervously, and sees something move, a flicker, outside. This time, the parents took it seriously. The dad ran outside, and later he admitted he saw footprints. Faint, but definitely footprints, right under the window.
Okay, now that complicates the neat memory theory.
Totally. The parents insisted it couldn't possibly be Brian. They'd moved houses years ago. He wouldn't know where they lived.
So this leaves a really challenging question, doesn't it? Was the dream just pulling up that old visual template of Brian the Scar and applying it to a completely new threat, a stranger who is actually outside?
Or was the dream somehow specifically about Brian tapping into that buried memory, and the footprints were just a horrible coincidence? Or maybe it was Brian.
That ambiguity, the fact that it's unresolved, that's what makes it so deeply unsettling for the person who lived through it.
Yeah.
Was the house stalked for years? Was it memory or reality? Or both somehow?
That connection, the visual identity tied to a forgotten person.
Right.
Yeah, that's the core of it. So if that first story hints that our dreams might be processing old, forgotten fears tied to real people, well, this next one dives into something else. Immediate external danger anticipation, the kind that might just save your life.
Right, this case is interesting because it involves someone who usually tries to control their dream environment. The narrator typically listens to specific sounds chess videos, space documentaries, thunderstorms, that kind of white noise, specifically to prevent nightmares, like building a predictable sound wall.
Okay.
But this one night, they were sleeping over at a friend's house, Duncan's place, no usual sound setup, so they just fell asleep normally, leaving their dreams, as they put it, sort of unprotected.
And bam! Immediate, vivid nightmare. The narrator's on a small sailboat. The water's choppy, kind of a weird purple color. The boat hits something hard, starts sinking fast. Total panic.
And just as the boat's going under, that's when the warning comes.
Yeah.
Establishes that sense of immediate crisis. A dolphin jumps out of the water. A dolphin locks eyes with the dreamer and says, clear as anything, in perfect English, wake up.
Wake up! Wow.
And that command, that specific instruction, it jolted them awake instantly.
And seconds later, their brain registers this sound. A sound that was absolutely wrong, out of place.
What was it?
Loud, rushing water. Coming from the upstairs bathroom.
Okay, see, that's the direct correlation we need to look at. The dream's sensory input syncing, water rushing in, translates almost immediately into the real-world sound of actual rushing water.
So the narrator creaks upstairs, checks it out, bathroom doors cracked open, and the sink faucet is turned on full blast, just gushing water.
But they hesitated.
Yeah, wisely, maybe. It was a big bathroom, apparently. Blind spots behind the bathtub, behind the door itself. Something felt off. So they backed away, ran downstairs, and woke up Duncan.
And Duncan, the friend, didn't hesitate. Just pushed the door open wider and stepped right in.
And instantly, just chaos. A figure lunged out from behind the door, tackled Duncan, and started swinging something. Looked like a piece of PVC pipe.
Jeez. An ambush.
Yeah, the narrator jumped in, there was a struggle, and the intruder eventually broke free, bolted downstairs, and ran out of the house.
Okay, so the police show up. What was their take?
Pretty standard initially. Random burglar, probably came in through an unlocked downstairs window, maybe got surprised.
But we had to challenge that, right? Based on the evidence.
Yeah.
Based on criminal logic.
Exactly. That's the critical point here. Burglars rely on stealth. Why on earth would one deliberately turn a faucet on full blast, creating a ton of noise, risking discovery?
It doesn't make sense for a simple burglary. The conclusion the friends reached, and it seems pretty logical, is that the running water wasn't an accident. It was bait.
In auditory lore.
Precisely. Someone knew the parents were away, turned on the sink specifically to draw someone upstairs, to lure a victim into that confined bathroom space where they were waiting.
Which suggests something way more sinister than just grabbing valuables. Premeditated. Targeted.
And the dream. The sinking boat, the sound of water, that urgent command from the dolphin. It effectively gave the narrator this powerful sensory alarm signal. It translated the real-world noise, the lure, into a life-threatening metaphor that woke them up and made them alert enough, maybe scared enough, not to just walk blindly into that trap alone.
Incredible. Okay, moving to our final account. This one involves a really personalized kind of terror happening during something called a false awakening. The external threat seems to perfectly mirror or maybe trigger an internal psychological assault.
Right. This happened while the narrator was staying over at their girlfriend's place, Bonnie's house. Her parents were away. Now, false awakenings. They're like these neurological traps. Your brain kind of half activates. You think you've woken up, but the environment is usually distorted somehow, still part of the dream state.
And in this case, the first awakening was triggered by real sounds, apparently. A door slamming downstairs, then rapid footsteps coming up towards the bedroom.
So real auditory cues bleeding into the dream state.
Yeah, but the focus, the thing the dreamer couldn't look away from, was the only visual distortion in the room. This thin yellow strip of light glowing from under the bedroom door.
Okay, that specific visual becomes the anchor point.
And it sets the stage for this incredibly intimate attack. The footsteps stop right outside the door, and then voices start.
Voices?
Yeah, not just like random threats. It started as insults, but then morphed into maybe 100 different voices, all reciting the dreamer's deepest, most repressed secrets. Shameful things from their past, things they barely admitted to themselves.
Oh, wow. That's deeply personal. Like the dream is weaponizing their own internal vulnerabilities. The description was like the darkest pieces of my brain being dragged out.
Exactly. And then the cycle repeats. They'd finally work up the courage to throw open the door in the dream, only to find darkness and feel this blast of ice-cold air. Then they'd wake up again, back in bed, see the same yellow light, hear the footsteps, endure the same horrific voice attack all over again. Confirmed false awakening loop.
Utterly exhausting. And that exhaustion, that blurring of dream and reality, sets the stage for the final shock.
Right. When the narrator finally woke up for real, checked Bonnie was still asleep next to them. Immediate relief, right? It's over. But then they looked at the actual bedroom door
and saw the light.
And saw the exact same thin strip of yellow light spilling from underneath it.
Oh my God. The terrifying, specific dream image, perfectly manifested in reality. That visual wasn't just a dream distortion, it was real.
And that was the signal. Someone was inside, they heard actual footsteps downstairs then, called the police immediately. Police arrived quickly, arrested 2 masked men downstairs. Turns out the guys had seen a social media post Bonnie made about her parents being away on a trip. Opportunistic break-in.
Okay, so the police have a straightforward explanation for the break-in itself. Opportunity.
Yeah. But for the narrator, the break-in itself wasn't the lingering horror, it was the dream.
Content of the dream. How did the simple noise of a break-in, the light from downstairs maybe, translate into such a specific, intimate psychological attack, reciting personal secrets? That's the mystery.
That sensory bleed through the sounds, the yellow light that was real, factual, it came from outside. But the brain didn't just register it, it overlaid that factual input with this completely customized terror, pulled from the dreamer's own psyche. It suggests that even when our brain is maybe anticipating external danger, it processes that threat through our absolute deepest, most personal vulnerabilities.
And that image, the yellow strip of light, the narrator says it's just burned into their mind now. Sees even with her eyes open sometimes.
Chilling.
When you connect these 3 stories, you know, the implicit memory surfacing as the scar, the dolphin's command anticipating the water lure, the yellow light bleeding through into that false awakening. It's more than just spooky tales. They're almost like case studies, showing these incredibly personalized, sometimes protective mechanisms our brains might use to signal an external threat, even while we're asleep.
We've looked at the real-world evidence in each case. The footprints, the deliberate trap with the water, the arrested intruders. That's concrete. But the terrifying takeaway here, I think, is that the sleeping mind doesn't just seem to register danger. It seems to format that danger using the most specific, potent, personalized imagery it can find in your own head.
Yeah, it really forces you to ask some deep questions, doesn't it? If the subconscious can filter and maybe even anticipate complex, specific external data like this, what does that really imply about how reliable our memories are? Or about things like premonition? And just how thin is that boundary, really, between our internal fears and the actual physical world?
Definitely something to think about. Maybe next time you double-check the locks before heading to bed.
Absolutely. And look, we invite you to delve deeper into more chilling true stories and the analysis around them. If you find this intersection of dreams, psychology, and real-world terror as fascinating as we do, please join our community.
You can find us on all your favorite platforms. Just search for the channel Horror Docs. That's HORRORDOCX.
Yeah, please subscribe. Hit that like button if you found this interesting, and maybe share it with someone else who appreciates these kinds of unsettling stories.
Thank you for joining us for this. Well, this unsettling dive.